Welcome back, everyone. I've posted a handful of Ford Bronco videos up to this point, but I've yet to dedicate an entire video to the baby Bronco, the Bronco Sport. So this week we're going to take a look at the goods and the bads of the little Bronco. Before we get started, I would like to take a quick second to address a rather serious allegation that was made in the comments section of my last video, 10 cars that deserve a second chance. This guy here accused me of scripting my chuckles. I take this charge very seriously, and I would just like to say that I did not fake any chuckles in the making of that video or any other video. Faking chuckles would ruin my reputation as a super serious automotive YouTuber, and I would never risk that. If you hear a chuckle that sounds fake or scripted, just know that I am easily amused by my own dumb jokes. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the Bronco Sport. Admittedly, I've always been a Bronco fan and didn't concern myself too much with what I thought was simply a Ford Escape with some new body panels. However, after reading through a number of first drive reports and watching some footage of the Bronco Sport tackling some rather tough terrain, I've actually changed my tune, and I now feel that it's probably actually a better fit than the Bronco for most people, but certainly not all people's lifestyles. I think it's actually worth considering that the Bronco Sport might even be more important to Ford's lineup than the Bronco. It's projected to be a much higher volume vehicle than the Bronco, and it shares 80% of its parts with the Ford Escape, so it allows Ford to save some money on design and development. This means that they can squeeze a bit more profit out of the Bronco Sport and allow themselves to produce other less profitable vehicles like the Bronco. So let's run through some goods and some bads. First up, let's talk about aesthetics. Sure, it's subjective, but I think Ford did a really nice job with the exterior design. The world is filled with bubbly, generic crossovers and SUVs, but the Bronco Sport does a nice job of balancing a modern design while maintaining a rugged feel with some really nice angles and squared off panels. The Bronco Sport even manages to give a nod to its bigger brother with the Bronco-inspired front grille and headlights. All in all, I think it's a nice looking vehicle. However, and this is a minor nit to pick, but I think it's safe to say that Ford borrowed heavily from the design of the Land Rover Freelander. In fairness, Land Rover makes some very nice looking upscale vehicles, but it would have been nice not to look at the Bronco Sport and have to think about Ford creating a knockoff of another design. Okay, another good thing. The Bronco Sport is offered with an available 2-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder engine, which is good for 245 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque. For a vehicle of this size, those are actually some really good numbers. And compared with vehicles like the Jeep Compass and Subaru Crosstrek, this engine delivers far more power. I haven't seen any 0 to 60 times on the Bronco Sport yet, but drivers shouldn't have any trouble accelerating to highway speeds. However, that engine isn't standard. The standard engine is a rather paltry 1.5-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder that makes 181 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque. It certainly isn't the weakest power plant in the class, but I think the base engine should have packed another 20 to 40 horsepower. As it is, I think a lot of consumers are going to want to opt for the more powerful engine. Next up, the all-wheel drive system. All Bronco Sport trims come with standard all-wheel drive, but the first edition and Badlands trims come with a very nifty twin-clutch rear drive unit that enables torque vectoring for improved power distribution and control. The center differential lock comes on automatically in off-road modes to split power between the front and rear, and the driver can push a button to lock the rear axle clutches on the fly. There's some rather impressive footage of the Bronco Sport holding its own in Moab, Utah, and I'm certain that most consumers won't ever need to push it that far. However, the remainder of the trim levels don't get the twin-clutch rear drive unit, although their all-wheel drive system should be comparable to other vehicles in its class, so it's a bit of a stretch to call that a negative. It's more just something you should be aware of when you're purchasing. Another good thing, unibody construction. Vehicles in this class aren't really meant to be off-road beasts, and it makes a lot of sense that Ford went with a design that offers better on-road handling and comfort. Unibody construction is also typically safer than body-on-frame construction due to crumple zones and the way that the structure can absorb impacts. And another benefit is that weight is reduced, which will also improve acceleration and gas mileage. However, body-on-frame construction is typically better for off-roading, and it tends to allow for greater towing and hauling capacities. This is reflected in the tow rating for the Bronco Sport, which comes in between 2,000 and 2,200 pounds, which is even less than the Ford Escape, which is rated for up to 3,500 pounds. It's probably not a deal breaker for most people, but it is something to think about if you're planning to pull a small boat or a trailer. In the good column, it's been reported that Ford is offering 0% financing for 36 or 48-month terms. Oh wait, should I say we're offering? While the 0% rate is still available for the 36-month term, the 48-month financing option has now been bumped to 0.9%. While that might not seem like much, that could actually mean over $700 more over the life of a loan for one of the upper end trims. The 60-month financing option is reported to be at 1.9%, and the 72-month option is at 3.9%. All things considered, those are still really reasonable rates, especially for a brand new model. Oftentimes a consumer would have to wait well past the first production year for rates like that. The Bronco Sport will be offered with over 100 accessories, which is really impressive for a vehicle in this class. And related to that, one neat thing that I noticed when researching the financing options is that consumers who choose to lease the Bronco Sport can pick up accessories on a residual basis, meaning that lessees pay a small amount up front for the add-ons and then just return them with the vehicle at the end of the lease. So basically, you can lease the accessories as well as the vehicle. So the financing terms all seem pretty good. However, what's not good is that the Bronco Sport is reported to only be offered in North America, at least for now. There aren't any plans to offer a right-hand drive variant for other markets, but I wouldn't be surprised to see those plans change if the Bronco Sport ends up being a big seller for Ford. So those are some goods and bads of the new Bronco Sport. So what do you think? Is there anything you'd like to call out as being a good or a bad? There isn't a manual transmission option, for instance. Is that something you'd like to see offered? The Sport also comes with the Sync 3 infotainment system and not Sync 4 like the big Bronco. Is that a deal breaker for you? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could click the thumbs up button below and consider subscribing to my channel. And if you haven't seen the rest of my Bronco videos, I'll link that playlist here. And if you want to judge for yourself if I was fake chuckling in my last video, I'll link that one here. As always, thank you for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.